This research will provide important insights into the impact of COVID-19 on students at the University of Mindanao, as well as opportunities to support students to become more involved in the classroom environment through sharing equipment, learning, promoting positive motivation, managing learning outcomes, and self. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused havoc on children, families, and communities all around the world, disrupting essential services and putting millions of lives in danger. In 194 nations nationwide, school closures have occurred and in attempt to avert the global health disaster since March. When students return to face-to-face learning, it is important that schools use a multi-layered strategy to prevent spread of the virus. The layered strategy recommended by CDC has proven to provide maximum protection. Schools need to continue to take some steps this fall to ensure the health and safety of teachers, staff, and students, especially those who are not fully vaccinated. Schools and countries need to monitor community infections, immunization scopes, screening, tests, and outbreaks to make decisions on layered preventive strategies.
Overpopulation is one of the most pressing and one of the major contributors to many environmental issues confronting the world today, but it often goes unnoticed. Overpopulation occurs when the human population exceeds the carrying capacity of the ecological environment. In an overcrowded environment, the number of people may exceed the availability of essential survival materials such as transportation, water, shelter, food, or social amenities. This frequently contributes to environmental degradation, deterioration in quality of life, or even population disintegration. According to NINSI 2020, overpopulation, along with our world's natural calamities that occur, proves that in the world of environmental activism, this is a long-held belief. Catastrophic as it is, COVID-19 is not the first pandemic that taught mankind a thing or two about its relationship with Mother Nature, and it is unlikely to be the last. ICAO 2016 states that the overpopulation requires higher demands on lands and resources, leading to the vast spread of environmental issues the world faces today. Extremely, the COVID-19 in addition to giving impact on the global economies and standards of living. When the COVID-19 pandemic started, it caused unprecedented upheaval in the educational scene, with the constitution collapsing practically overnight. Just like the other countries, schools and colleges in Philippines follow a distinct structure of education in which students cannot physically attend lessons but must attend classes digitally, which creates a new difficulty as stated by Kennedy and President 2020. There was different educational method and approach for the students and teachers to cope up with the new normal, where the learning follows conducting classes, online, and modular learning. Now that the Department of Education is planning to bring back the face-to-face classes, the University of Mindanao needs to establish safety protocols among the students, knowing that the number of students are overpopulated.
Pandemic response demonstrated how fundamentally unprepared the people were to meet worldwide spread despite technological advances, as well as how undisciplined and even disobedient people are as citizens in not following the authorities and experts' recommendations. This might get worse when the schools reopen, wherein hallways are normally crowded by students, canteens where people usually hang out, and classrooms where students gather to learn. This study has provided insights and awareness of the dangers of exponential growth of the COVID-19 if not taken seriously. During the pandemic, one of the most important lessons learned was the importance of teachers in ensuring that learning continues. As the University of Mindanao reopens, much will be dependent on teachers and staffs to ensure that the lost knowledge that the students can continue their education in a safe and healthy setting, and to make up for lost knowledge and abilities. When it comes to physical separation, it is critical to set certain classroom ground rules that follow the school's administration procedures, as well as protocols established by your individual country's Ministry of Health and local health bodies and authorities. Mixing classes for school and after-school activities should be avoided. For example, students in a class may remain in the same classroom throughout the day while teachers travel between them. The class may also utilize various entrances, if available, or arrange a schedule for each class to enter and exit the building or classroom. Overcrowding because of overpopulation, especially in the Philippine schools, is not a new problem, but it may be a barrier to safe face-to-face education at a time when it is most needed. Concerns about COVID-19 outbreaks in the University of Mindanao may inspire policy and institutional changes to address the long-term issue of overcrowding. To tap into their unique insights into the success of educational environments, students and school communities should be involved in the early stages of school design and planning.
When people breathe in air contaminated by droplets and small airborne particles, COVID-19 is transmitted. Breathing them in is the most dangerous, especially when individuals are close together, but they can also be inhaled over greater distances, especially indoors, because COVID-19 is undetectable to the human eye. Some of the symptoms are cough and fever. Still, there is no way to know if someone is infected or not. Traveling to famous destinations or visited loved ones, which becomes the primary cause for COVID-19's global spread. Following a 5-week decline, global COVID-19 cases had climbed last week, fueled by increases in 3 regions, namely Asia, Africa, and Europe. According to the World Health Organization latest weekly data, South Korea, Vietnam, and Netherlands are 3 of the 5 countries accounted for the majority of more than 11 million cases reported globally last week. After the presidential election, South Korea exceeds 380,000 new COVID-19 cases in just a day. According to the government, South Korea set a new daily record for new coronavirus cases over the weekend, with 383,665 new COVID-19 cases registered on Saturday, a fresh reminder that COVID-19 cases have yet to reach the peak during the current spike, which is being powered by extremely contagious Omicron variant. According to our World in data, the number of cases in the country has surged by 104% in the last 2 weeks, with an average of more than 300,000 new cases and around 200 new deaths every day. Despite the fact that 86% of South Korea's population is completely vaccinated, the country is currently reporting 10 times as many cases each day, even though South Korea is one of the countries that has fared well in the wake of coronavirus outbreak. National school closures have had an impact on the education and training sector. Schools will be reopened in stages, despite the fact that teachers and students are finding it difficult due to lack of training and infrastructure. Education is being delivered online school. Closures continue to be a contentious issue, with some claiming that the public health benefits outweigh the social and economic costs imposed on children and their families. On March 8, 2022, the Netherlands recorded 5,447 new COVID-19 cases, and the Netherlands' total number of verified COVID-19 cases surpassed 6.8 million, with over 563,000 cases. The Utrecht region has the most coronavirus cases to date. The daily number of confirmed cases in the Netherlands peaked in April 20 during the first wave on April 10, 2020. The daily figures increased to 1,394. COVID-19 had a significant impact on rural livelihoods in underprivileged communities in the Philippines. The loss of income and job possibilities were the main issue, COVID-19 limits the significant economic impact and were especially difficult to cope up with in disaster-prone population. According to findings, the most pressing issues prior to and during COVID-19 week were the lack of economic prospects and pay cuts were already problems, but the pandemic had exacerbated them greatly. Communities reported limited food supplies as well as health, sanitation, and nutritional difficulties during the pandemic.
Background of the study. COVID-19 is undetectable to the naked eye. Breathing it in is the most dangerous part. The moment an air contaminated by droplets has been inhaled, COVID-19 is transmitted. Some of the symptoms are cough and fever. Still, there is no other way to know if someone is infected or not until they undergo a swab test. The main reason why COVID-19 spread throughout the world is because people travel across the world without knowing if they are infected or not, traveling to famous destinations or even visiting loved ones. Following the 5-week decline, global COVID-19 cases had climbed up again last week. Increases of COVID-19 cases are in the 3 regions, namely Asia, Africa, and Europe. According to the World Health Organization, or also known as WHO, latest weekly data, 3 out of 5 countries accounted for the reported 11 million cases globally last week are South Korea, Vietnam, and Netherlands. Since the coronavirus disease becomes a global pandemic, one of the first countries who got affected was South Korea. Though the number of SARS-CoV-2 positive cases is lower compared to USA or most European countries, after the presidential election, South Korea exceeds 380,000 new COVID-19 cases on a single day. According to the government of South Korea has set a new daily record for positive cases of COVID-19 with a total of 383,665 cases registered on Saturday. This is because of the extremely contagious Omicron variant. Even though South Korea is one of the countries that fared well on the wake of coronavirus outbreak, and 86% of South Korea's population has been vaccinated, in the last 2 weeks, the number of positive cases in the country has surged by 104%, an average of 300,000 new cases and around 200 new deaths every day. With a total of 204,025 positive cases, the highest daily average ever recorded, COVID-19 positive cases on Vietnam are at an all-time high. As of March 18, 2022, there's a total of 916,948 confirmed cases in Hanoi, followed by 579,280 confirmed cases in Ho Chi Minh City. This crisis had a negative impact on all the sectors in Vietnam, especially in the airline and tourism industries. In late March, Prime Minister Nguyen Huan Phuc signed the directives number 15 and number 16, which introduced measures such as nationwide social distancing. These measures have been effective, but the drop in demand has impacted several business sectors such as restaurants, shops, cinemas, and entertainment venues. The Vietnam's foreign entry restriction remain in place to prevent domestic outbreaks.
Memorize. Work.
pandemic response demonstrated how fundamentally unprepared the people were to meet worldwide spread despite technological advances, as well as how undisciplined and even disobedient people are as citizens in not following the authorities and experts' recommendations. This might get worse when the schools reopen, wherein hallways are normally crowded by students, canteens where people usually hang out, and classrooms where students gather to learn. This study has provided insights and awareness of the dangers of exponential growth of the COVID-19 if not taken seriously. During the pandemic, one of the most important lessons learned was the importance of teachers in ensuring that learning continues. As the University of Mindanao reopens, much will be dependent on teachers and staffs to ensure that the lost knowledge that the students can continue their education in a safe and healthy setting, and to make up for lost knowledge and abilities. When it comes to physical separation, it is critical to set certain classroom ground rules that follow the school's administration procedures as well as protocols established by your individual country's Ministry of Health and local health bodies and authorities. Mixing classes for school and after-school activities should be avoided. For example, students in a class may remain in the same classroom throughout the day while teachers travel between them. The class may also utilize various entrances, if available, or arrange a schedule for each class to enter and exit the building or classroom. Overcrowding because of overpopulation, especially in the Philippine schools, is not a new problem, but it may be a barrier to safe face-to-face education at a time when it is most needed. Concerns about COVID-19 outbreaks in the University of Mindanao may inspire policy and institutional changes to address the long-term issue of overcrowding. To tap into their unique insights into the success of educational environments, students and school communities should be involved in the early stages of school design and planning.
Coronavirus disease continues to spread the world following a trajectory that is difficult to predict. The health, humanitarian, and socio-economic policies adopted by countries will determine the speed and strength of the recovery. There must be a global human-centered response which is grounded in solidarity. Overpopulation makes the disease easily spread from person to person. Due to lack of awareness of what is the COVID-19 virus can do to our body. Most of the people underestimated its effect and did not take the government warning seriously. In this scenario, the world struggles to find solutions in order to fight this virus, especially to those countries who don't have enough resources, and most of the establishments are forced to close due to the high rate of the cases, especially the schools. The schools find ways to continue even the students are in home, so they push the online learning or online classes, but most of the students struggles in home for this new way of learning, especially those who don't have enough things such as Wi-Fi and gadget to do online class. And they wanted to go back to normal. But now, the face-to-face classes has been slowly implemented across the Philippines in order to not get caught by the virus. Even if you're vaccinated, you must still follow the safety protocols of your school and do a proper hygiene so we can go back slowly to normal and reduce the cases of COVID-19.
Individual conclusion. Due to overpopulation and the public would not take the public awareness seriously, the moment COVID-19 spreads throughout China was a realization for most of us that viruses and pandemic does not only happen on movies but also in real life. COVID-19 had changed the course of the world. A lot of lives got affected and lost. Also, because of COVID-19, students had to take online class for safety on both the students and the teachers. But since face-to-face have slowly resumed here on the Philippines, teachers will be held responsible for ensuring that children can continue their education in a safe and healthy setting. Encourage the students to follow the guidelines such as social distancing, wearing of face masks, and maintaining proper hygiene. such as hand washing on a regular basis. This has been done by the school to ensure the safety of the students and also to prevent any positive cases to occur. Due to overpopulation and a large number of students, schools might find it hard to maintain and to keep students in check, so the students' cooperation is also needed.
After conducting this research, I can conclude that because of the rapid spread of COVID-19 pandemic, many lives are affected and among those are the students. Different methods were applied just to cope up during the years of lockdown and learning online and modular. This incoming face-to-face classes, the Department of Education and Commission on Higher Education must be prepared to the extent because they will be held responsible for the safety of the students. Students in University of Mindanao are overpopulated and therefore it will be challenging to inform them. Because of that, students must also do their part and that means they should keep themselves updated by the information given by the Department of Health and UN to maintain safety protocols when the face-to-face classes starts. COVID-19 caused huge devastating results in our lives to the point that it robbed us our opportunity to study in schools. Now that we are given the chance to face classes, safety is the priority. Thus, it requires students' huge cooperation for this new normal to work out.
Schools closures related to the current COVID-19 pandemic means that students from diverse backgrounds who are more at risk of increased vulnerability are less likely to receive the support and extra services they need. And the gap between students that experience additional barriers and that do not widen might widen. Closures can also have considerable effects on students' sense of belonging to schools and their feelings of self-worth.